This block belongs to Kubota SVL95 2S. We bought the machine inoperable and we knew there is an engine problem. When we brought it home, we tried to attempt to strip the engine. We knew that it's not turning on because it wouldn't go even with ether. So we pulled the filters and found metal chunks in filter, so we knew that engine is toast. We took the engine out, stripped it, and we saw that cylinder number 3 had basically the injector was wide open for a prolonged period of time and had destroyed, basically melted the piston. I have the head over there, it's already been serviced. So there was some scoring in the walls of cylinders, especially cylinder number 3. I stripped the block and took it to a machine shop to machine it for me. Took everything along with the crank and pistons and rods and basically everything to the machine shop so that they can service it for me. Over here in Canada, machine shop service like that is kind of like people don't fix stuff. Just it makes sense to get brand new block or brand new engine. So it took approximately 3 months to get to this block, and after they bored it and they sleeved it, they called me up and they're like, okay, we sleeved it. As you see, you can see the sleeve. They sleeved the block, but when they pressure tested it during the process, I don't know how that happened. Maybe the sleeves were too thick, or it should have been kind of like thinner material, or the bore should have been bigger, whatever. They cracked the block, and the cracks are from there. You can see that crack. All these are cracked, but worse than that, you see the gap here between the sleeve and the block. So I was very furious. I kind of like thought that I lost it at once in that machine shop, because had I done this myself would have been a different case, would have taken my time, but unfortunately this is the case. So believe it or not, one of these blocks from Kubota is around $7,000 in Canada. So we had to pull the plug and get the block. Now the block is sitting right here. I've never opened a crate, a block from Kubota. So I guess price aside, Christmas is here today. So we're gonna open that block and have an unboxing together. Yeah, so when they damaged the block, they also managed to damage the reluctor gear, and you see that tooth that's bent. So this gear by itself is press fit with this. These two pieces together, guess how much they are? They're like $400. I don't know, I can't see the carat on this, but must be made out of gold. It's probably 14 karat. Anyways, so I have the block right here with me. It's the new block. I'm gonna put you on a stand, and we're gonna open this up together. But before we do that, I just want to let you know that this is Kubota's V3800. It's around 3.76 liters. and 4-cylinder obviously, and V3800-1 2FW3628, and that's the engine. That's the engine number. To me, this chunk of cast iron, it's a very interesting to me. It's very complex. It's a very modern block. It's got very thin walls when it should have thin walls, and reinforcements when it should have. Apparently not many of these engines are out there yet. In Europe there is more, but over here in North America they're not as prevalent as one might think, because this is a bigger engine, and most mini excavators and mini skid steers and stuff, they use a smaller engine. I know that they are in SVL90s. I know that some Bobcats use them, and probably TL12 from Takeuchi also uses this. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So let's put you on a stand and take this away. All right, let's see what Kubota has packed us. It's definitely a good feeling to open a brand new block, but all right, so that's the first piece. Now I'm not sure if I have to. Okay, they wrapped it with this. To be honest, I don't even know if this is the right block. We have ordered the right block for the machine and the engine, but you know, things get lost in translation. Sometimes they send you a different stuff. So I kind of want to open this at the top and make sure it's the right one before getting completely committed. All right, it's already honed. Okay, so it's good to see that we already see that it's already honed. It's not been painted. Ooh, shiny. And I think we put Cosmeline or a LPS3 or something on these things. No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Kind of like, you scared me for a sec, but it's the same thing. Okay, I show you. Okay, here is a close up. You can see the cross hatching, whatever they call them, the honing. It is the same engine. There is no other paperwork that I could see. There's nothing here. There's just a block. I was hoping you put something else with it too, but who am I kidding? Yeah, it's just a block. Right, so I have to somehow take this out of this. I'll bring you back. I'm waiting for my bro to come and help me take the block out. Meanwhile, I can give you a little bit of information in regards to this head. So obviously the head was bad as well. So the information that I have been able to put together so far, because I gave the injectors to this injector guy to test them and see if they're any good. He said after testing the injectors that 2 of the injectors for this, they were wide open, cylinders 2 and 3, and cylinders 1 and 4, they were on their way out. So the theory that I have, and maybe you can help me with this, is that basically cylinder got washed. This is the piston of number 3. Number 2 was not as bad, but as you see, it's totally and completely melted. Scoring. I have pictures of when I opened the cylinder head. I think I have a movie of it too. I'll see if I can put it up. And guess what these holes are? This hole is a tip of the injector apparently. So pretty catastrophic, you ask me. Obviously when you have a wash in the cylinder, this was completely melted, and when I took the head to the machine shop, they had heck of a hard time to basically behind the valve all the way to the exhaust of number 3 was melted aluminum, like melted aluminum that's stuck to the walls of the passages. So we changed the intakes, we changed the exhausts and valves, and they had, I think they told me that they had to use the torch to get into the passages, melt the aluminum and blow it out. I was really glad that they did that and they found that, because had we just changed the valves or honed the seats and stuff and put that in, and didn't know that all that aluminum was in the exhaust side, we could have taken out the turbo, and I had to get the turbo for this thing as well, because during the process of it melting, all that aluminum went to the turbo. Apparently they were running the engine for the longest of time, and like the engine that has this kind of problem, you would hear it and you would turn it off, but I have no idea why they ignored all that and ran the machine for extended amount of time, and we had this catastrophic failure all the way from cylinder, pistons, and to turbo. The turbo for this thing by itself was around $5,000, and this is Canadian money I'm talking about. I'm sure you can probably find it cheaper elsewhere, but I don't know, should I trust eBay on something like turbo, or should I not? So I just kind of like went with the Kubota stuff and the dealership. And we all know, if you go to Kubota dealership, you gotta empty your pockets and run away. So they honed, they basically stripped everything. They honed the seats, they made sure everything is proper, they changed the valves. This is surprisingly low amount of backspring on these valves. This is a small engine, but you know what, it's all proper, it's all good. I have all the parts, and hopefully we can do this build together. Yeah, crazy. So I have now taken out the 2 bushings. These were respectively over here and basically this was over here. I tried to take him out without damaging the old block, but unfortunately there was no way for me to take him out without basically tapping it from behind. So I had to basically chip away from the back of the bushing and gently with a brass hammer tap it out. It was not elegant. You don't want to see the footage. What else I did? Yeah, so these are the pieces that I broke away from the back. What else I did? There was this water connection piece that was right here. Again, this was press fit. There was no way that I could take this out. Tried chiseling around it, didn't come out. Didn't want to damage it. This piece by itself is like around $100 Canadian. So I took it out. I took this piece out too. This was easy because I went to the back of it and tapped it out with a chisel, cold chisel. Same thing with this. This is a little bit bent, but I think I can straighten it out. It's just for water, then tap it in. So this is the progress so far. I think I'm gonna put away the old block now, empty the desk, and take it from there. So I put this one in, and all I did was with a dead blow hammer, gently lined it up, made sure it's square, took it all the way home, and now make sure there is no light escaping from there. So this is perfectly flush. I'll do the other one same way, and then bring you back. So the two main, the bushings are in, properly nice and flush. Now I'm gonna take the main caps off, clean the cosmoline or whatever this is off of them, blow them out, clean the area, make sure everything is free of dust, and we're gonna install the crank. So I just took out the old caps from being in the plastic. There is just a little bit of nick right here. I think they've rubbed on each other. I think it should be fine. This Babbitt material looks to be okay. Aside from very nice, very small nick that is here and here, I'm debating whether I should get new bearings. I'll go see how much they cost. This should not be bad, because I think you'll form the crank after tighten it down. Use a lot of assembly lube. It's set properly, it's no problem. This other one also has a nick. I don't know now. Maybe I should get brand new bearing set. Right, I'll go see how much they cost and bring you back. This is the shop service manual, and as you see, that's the thrust bearing, and it says that it wants the thrust bearing to go in basically the riding side towards the block, and it wants it like this. So like this, and as you see, it's this one. So I was wrong. The thrust bearing, the riding side goes towards the, probably these are oil galleries for oil. I'm glad I looked it up. Didn't want to make that. I'm gonna use some assembly oil on this side of thrust bearing to make it stick, basically. Make it sticky. Same thing for the other side. I'm gonna put the cap side later on, after I drop in the crankshaft. So the guy at Kubota contacted me. I had left him a message. The main crank bearings, the whole set of it, is around 250 bucks Canadian. It's not much. I could basically get them, but it's gonna be at least a week of wait, because they're gonna come out of Japan, and they do not have it at the Toronto warehouse apparently. So you know what, these are not that bad. This engine never had a problem with bearings, so I think it should be fine. They're nice and shiny. There's nothing wrong with them. It's number 5. So blowing the lint away, more assembly lube. All right, I think we are ready for the crank. the service, the machine shop I sent the crank to, I sent the block to, also magnafluxed the crank, so we know the crank is okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but you know, for the peace of mind, I sent everything. I see that they have also polished the crank. That's nice. Gonna have some time. Gonna put you on time lapse to open this up. The crank looks nice and shiny. I'm gonna blow all the oil galleries. Don't want to have an expensive mistake. Of metal of shaving could be a death sentence for this engine. It is nice and shiny. But blowing all the lint away, everything looks good. Let's drop in the crank. This sucker is heavy. What happened? Ah, I put it backwards. I think I put it backwards. Ah, dummy. Yep. No, it's right. Lining up the thrust bearings properly. Now this is number 5. Assembly lube galore. Like, the weird thing is that this forward, it says forward side, you have to read it like this, like you're standing behind the engine. So far so good. Now this is number 4. I gotta put the thrust bearings with this. I don't think there is any, I just face down. There is no left and right with these. Standard. So these 2 grooves gotta be outside. Seated properly. Oh yeah. Alright, I'm gonna put the wrist in and bring you back. Alright, it's not been torqued, but I can turn it with one hand. Snow in and out. Now we gotta torque it. The manual calls for 137.3 to 147.1 Newton meters, or 101.3 to 108.4 foot-pounds. I got one of these Harbor Freight torque meters. I'm gonna take it first. I'm gonna tighten it very slightly with impact. Just, I don't want to screw everything. But before that, I'm gonna dip all the bolts in oil. This is some Petro Canada oil, 10W40. Just dip that in there, and take everything to probably 40, and then 80, and then stage 3. I'm gonna take it all the way to the specified torque of, which is 101.3 to 108.4. I probably take everything to 108. All right, so just basically dip everything, the oil. Right, I'll bring you back. Right, let's take everything to 40. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start from the middle and go with the recommended crisscross tightening. What happened to this? I have no idea. It's not turning on. All right. Plan B. Any other battery or something. Gonna go to 40. All right, let's take it to 80. right. Right, stage 3 is 108. It's 101.3 to 108.4. So let's go to 100 first. So this is 100. And let's do 108. This is the final. Right. I have the crankcase right here. Just have to prep it. I have to prep the surface of this with some blades. Just take the old gasket off mostly. This is not a gasket, but on the crankcase there is the old gasket. This is mostly cosmeline, little bit of that tarp, blue top that was on it. So I'm just gonna take my time, clean this, clean both, and bring you back. All right, I'm ready to install or put on the crankcase, one on top of crankcase 2. And here's what I'm using: Right Stuff Permatex, 1 minute. It's high flexibility and oil resistance. And check out this sweet Hajima caulking gun. It's so sweet. You see when I go in all the way, when I release, it brings the piston a little bit back, so as to prevent the spillage. Better control. This is really sweet setup. Right, put you on time lapse. The manual calls for crankcase mounting screw is an M10. It says take it from 49 to 55 newton meters, or 37 to 41 foot-pounds. So I'm going to 40 foot-pounds. I've already done all this. Right, put you on time lapse. This is the bearing, main bearing cover, case cover. This seal, I'm not changing the seal, it's okay. I'm just gonna loop this up very well, and liquid gasket around these, and then slap it on. It says up, so it should be installed like that. Alright, so I've already installed the lower, and I reversed this, cleaned all this perfectly. I opened the piston kit. Piston kit comes with 4 rings. So the important thing is that you see, that's one of the rings. That's the second one. So this one goes under this one, right there in that groove. And then there are little R marks. I don't know if you can see. There's very R marks. R has to be up. Same. R has to be up. And when you install this, the 2 gaps have to be opposite. This gap has to be opposite this gap. So goes inside that. Yeah, so I'll do that and bring you back. So I've put the engine on the side, put in the reluctor gear. It's got a keyway. Put in this bolt. Put in this piece. Put the hose on it. Put in this piece. Put the hose on it. Sensor. And then what else did I do? Put in this put in this one, put in the cap. The oil filter in this setup goes over here, so we don't have to, this gets capped basically. And ready to put in the pistons. These are the crank pin rings or bearings, sorry, crank pin bearings. Got 4 of those, and I have the pistons already made. Put on the rings on the pistons. So you see where that says forward has to match this numbering on this rod. This side doesn't have number, so when it says, where it says forward, has to match that. So another way is to, where that says forward has to match this notch. So that's how you put them in. And there is a diagram for the piston rings. Under this very last one, oil ring, under it there is that springy ring, and then the second one, and then the third one. Then when you put them up, the R side, there is a written R on ends of them. R has to be upwards, and the orientation basically goes the oil ring. The orientation of the oil ring is basically at 7 or 8 o'clock, around 8 o'clock, and the second middle ring is at 2 o'clock, and the first ring has to be at like 4 or 5 o'clock. So that's how they're oriented in the manual. There is a in the manual there is directions. I'm gonna check them again before putting them in. So now I'm gonna put the bearing in here. The bearings come in 2 different thicknesses. There is a standard and there is a blue dyed side one. So in my case, I measured the old bearings because I wanted to change the bearings. And mine are the standard ones. And I show you the old bearings. Nothing wrong with them. There is some discoloration that I decided to change them. There is very slight. You see the colors, like 2 different colors, and there is a little bit of pitting. I could have kept a lot of them because, like for example, this one is, you can see that it needs to be changed, 2 colors. But some of them were good, but I decided to change all of them. So that's the case for now. I'll put you on the stand and let's put in pistons. Right, I forgot to get a video, but put the cylinders in. I have one of these Chinese cylinder ring compressors. Now you gotta pay attention to these notches right here. I don't know if you can see these notches right here. They're 1, 2, 3, 3 all around, and then you basically loosen it like this, and then as you put it in, progressively it gets tighter, and then you basically put it in, make sure it is flush, and one force just push it in. So everything went well. All the cylinders are in, all the pistons I mean, and with one hand you can turn the engine. 2 hands. But they've not been torqued yet. I'll take a break and come back and torque them. So the timing mark for this engine is right here, 4, right here 2, right here 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 right here. And these 2 bolts are pretty inconspicuous. There's that one and this one. So if you have extra bolts, it's for those 2. We are getting ready to slap on the front cover case. So here's the progress so far. We put on the gears, put on the front cover. When you're putting on the front cover, the oil pump gear is a bit troublesome to line it up, but otherwise if it gets lined up properly, it goes in properly. From behind the cover, I took out the bolts, the little screws, sorry, for the oil pump. I cleaned the oil pump. These have fairly robust oil pumps on them, but if there is any residue, if there is any shavings from previous damage, then you gotta clean that so that it doesn't get introduced. It's true that it gets filtered, but still, I opened it up, cleaned it. Using the same seal, there is no problem with this seal, front main. And what else should I tell you? Everything else went well. I have a little trouble here. I'm using this piece from the previous engine, and taking it out, there is a hairline crack right there at the elbow. I think it's stainless steel. Later on I'll maybe just put a dab of weld on it. Other than that, everything looks good. We gotta clean this, clean the surface, vacuum. I think I want to vacuum again in between these rings in case something has dropped on it. Just shop vac it. Put in the lifters with a lot of assembly lube. What else I should tell you? That's pretty much it. These are the lifters. And I'll bring you back. We're getting ready to put on the head gasket. This is the head gasket from Kubota. Here's the part number if you want. But depending on your old gasket, these engines have notches right here. So you have to basically see what notch you used before. There's like a circular notch right here. Don't compromise on this. Get this from Kubota. I think they have like 3 variations of head gaskets, so you have to choose the right head gasket. Expensive, but well worth it. Tightening the rocker arm bolts, these. I stripped the nuts. These nuts 2-3 times if you torque them to a spec. Basically they're bad after. So oil them and then tighten it. Torque spec for the rocker arm is up to 40 foot-pounds. So now I'm gonna set the valve clearances and take it from there. So we just set the valves. Some points for you to know is that these coins right here, these coins, this side that does not have the burr is up. On the side that has the burr goes down. And then what we did, because luckily we have the injectors out, so I just put a piece of aluminum. This is aluminum. Make sure it's not something metal, whatever. Just put it inside the injector hole very gently. And then what you do, you rotate the engine until you find the top dead center. Top dead center is when you had the intake. So these are the intakes, these are the exhausts. So when you had the intake open and then you see this rod come up all the way to the top, so and then compresses and then comes all the way up, then you have the top dead center. So when you have the power stroke, like when you turn the engine, you basically right after top dead center, when the piston is going down, then you see the exhaust valve right after open. So the manual has basically gives you 2 sequences, one for when the piston 1 is at the compression top dead center. You adjust these valves, and then when the piston has overlap positions, overlap basically next cycle that the piston is already comes up. So top dead center is right before you have power stroke, and next time the piston comes up, so goes down, the next time it comes up, then the piston is at overlap position. So that's overlap position for you. And what you do, you basically adjust the, I have one of these feeler gauges, if I can find a feeler gauge, and the valve clearance according to Kubota manual is 0.25 millimeters. So there is a range, but this is right in the middle. 0.25 on top of the engine also there is that information on top of the engine, on the label on top of the engine, it says that. So that's what you do. You tighten all this, make sure they never come off, because if they loosen, you're gonna drop a valve and then you're basically buying a new engine. So make sure all these bolts are really tight, and when you adjust them, listen to the sounds. They should sound similar, so that you know the gap is very similar. And yeah, I'm getting ready to drop in the injectors and the injector hold downs or clamps. What I did, I don't know if I mentioned, I stripped these nuts, I changed them. All right, I'll bring you back. Right, the valve cover is on. Now, and I put on this piece. Now gonna install the water pump, move to intake and exhaust, and put on the fuel rail. This bolt right here is not through, but this one is through, and this is for return of injection fuel. And what else? Yes, gonna put the rest of this stuff on, and I'll bring you back. Got the new gasket for exhaust manifold. That's the part number. Right, another thing is that I lost the top dead center, but let me show you. The crank has these two holes right there, but I looked on the flywheel, that flywheel has witness marks for these two holes. They're not dowels, but just flywheel has the witness marks. So and on the flywheel there is a top dead center marking, so I'm glad I have that. And yeah, I'm gonna work on putting the fuel rail return. Gonna put on the water pump and all this stuff, and then bring you back. This is a new turbo from Kubota. I'm gonna unbolt the old one and put this on. Bring you back. New gasket for turbo. So this is what I took out of this is cylinder number 3, in which we had trouble with. The piston melted, so I took out this aluminum piece from inside here. I'm really glad I looked. I have to thoroughly check all the way to turbo, because I don't want these aluminum pieces and that end up in turbo. I'll vacuum inside that and make sure I wire brush inside it. Yeah, crazy. All right, so this is the progress that we've had so far. Engine is mostly back together. Now I forgot to tighten, because I put the thermostat housing on, forgot to tighten this, and I thought I can tighten it after I put the water pump, but one of the bolts is really down there, so I cannot tighten it. So I have to take this off again and tighten that, and then tighten these bolts again. The fuel rail is on, but I have not tightened these yet. Everything else is on. Put the turbo on. I had a lot of trouble with the turbo because I changed the turbo. This is actually a Mitsubishi turbo, I didn't know. It's the new turbo. It's like the bolts that were in the old turbo were kind of a bit stuck, so it took me some time to take him out and exchange the turbo. I changed all of these washers. These are little aluminum washers. I'm assuming you can change them with crushed copper washers, but for now, they're not very expensive, couple of bucks each, so I changed everything. Any other, oh yeah, there was a hairline crack on this pipe, and the crack was actually inside that, at the inside. It was, I don't think it was like a huge problem, but we decided now that we are here, we should address that. This is a stainless steel piece, so we'll take 7018s or wires if you have MIG. We 7018'd it, and it looks pretty good. Because there was like paint on it, in the beginning we had a level of porosity, and to clean inside we used the Dremel to clean really nicely, and then 7018 the inside. I'm confident this is not gonna leak. It's not a high pressurized, crazy high pressurized. It's pressurized but not a lot, so I'll monitor this. This piece was taken out of the old block. I took this piece out because kind of like I had to wait to get it and didn't want to wait, so I fixed this. Other than that, we'll put the alternator on, put the this thing on, and I basically impacted with the highest torque setting on my impact Milwaukee fuel, and I'll check the torque again on that. I think it's 200 something. What else should I tell you? Yeah, it's looking, I've not tightened these yet. The problem is that I still think that I should let the fuel pump run a little bit. I'll bleed the system. I let the fuel pump run a little bit, not to send the any dirt or whatever there is in here into the rail. So I'm gonna crack it open from here right before we basically commit to run it. Make sure there is make sure it's clean and clear fuel going to the injectors. I don't want to have the same problem again. What else? Everything else straightforward. Um, Putting things back together. This thing is become really heavy. My table was kind of like bending a little bit, but the legs are metal. So, and I put this here like a horse to support it. What else? Yes, so that's how it is. The the DPF, that filter that basically gets injected with ammonia and basically burns the rest of the unburned fuel and stuff. I'm confident it is plugged, so I'm gonna basically disassemble it. It's sitting outside, so I'm gonna disassemble it, pressure wash it, blow it, pressure wash it, blow it until it's fairly clean. That filter by itself is God knows how much, so I want to use that, reuse that. What else? And yes, that's the progress so far. Now I just called Kubota to get some paint. I'll paint these, paint the block on the head a little bit before it goes in. Not so concerned about aesthetics, but I don't want rust neither. So what else should I tell you? Yeah, so that's how everything is. This the way they had the engine, when we basically took the engine was actually buried up to here inside the belly of the skid steer. It was buried to here. Yeah, so the engine was buried to here in mud, and we basically scooped out, not kidding you, a complete wheelbarrow, a little bit more of sand. And we had such a hard time because the sand was oily and everything was covered. You can still see it. Like, I have pressure washed all these pieces, but still sand there in that hole. And the alternator was to here, was buried in sand. So I've cleaned this. I'm not confident this works. We'll see. But it doesn't sound crazy. It doesn't have any wiggle. I'm yet to voltage test it, but we'll check on that later and see how that is, if it is still alive. And what else? That's it. I don't want to put the bell housing on yet. Like, I can put the bell housing. I have them. Thankfully, I kind of lost the top dead center on this. Like, right after we put everything, because the second sequence of adjustments for the valves basically takes you to the rollover right after, like, it's second time the piston comes up after top dead center. So top dead center, and the second time the piston comes up. So I lost the top dead center on it, but thankfully, I don't know, maybe you can correct me. These two holes, these two, they have left witness marks on the flywheel. And I'm gonna line it up exactly with these two holes with the witness marks and put the bolts in. And on the flywheel there is notches. I can show you later for top dead center. So that's that. Yeah. I go to Kubota, grab the paint. So regarding the injectors, we had to buy the injectors. The price on injectors is around 1,500 Canadian each, a little bit more actually. And they've since come up. They've since gotten more expensive apparently. And this sucker takes 4 injectors. So I got the injectors, and because the old injectors, I took it to this injector injector shop. They do basically all injectors and the fuel pumps, and they said the injectors are bad. So kind of like I said, please order them for me. He ordered a set of injectors for this, and then I go pick it up and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, these injectors are different, the ones that they ordered, and we cannot source those injectors that you have. This engine has Denso injectors. They're not very common. So again, I had to go to Kubota and get the injectors from them, and the injectors have I probably put up a picture of the ID on injectors. Every injector has an ID and a QR code, and apparently you have to pair the injectors with the ECU. And I called Kubota. I'm like, okay, now that I have everything together, can I run this without pairing it first? And the Kubota guy got back to me, and they're like, it's gonna run, but it's not gonna run well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna probably put it on the trailer, take it to Kubota, pair it with the ECU. The machine is already on the trailer, so I don't know what you guys think about that. Can I run that without pairing it first with ECU? Because I really want to turn it on at my own place rather than going to Kubota and turning it on there, because I don't have any tools there, and I want to kind of like make sure there is no debris in the fuel injection pump, and I want to kind of like let this run a little bit, and I don't have tools at Kubota, like if I take it there and stuff. So there is a little bit of dilemma right there. I'll figure it out. But yes, I'm gonna work on cleaning up the bell housing, tightening all the nuts and bolts and things here, maybe getting it prepped for a little bit of paint, and yeah, and it's coming together. All right, here's the engine all back together in its glory. I went to Princess Auto. Princess Auto is like a Harbor Freight in Canada. I got the casters, those heavy duty casters. I had some 1-inch plywood, cut it up in 2-foot pieces, and some 3x3 blocks or posts that I cut. So mounted the engine on it, strapped it down real good. It's really heavy. If you can see, it's actually has gone into the plastic of the bed liner, and with the crane just put it up. Ended up painting it, got the paint from Kubota, and I brought it to location. The machine is on the trailer, so gotta take this to the trailer. I found the top dead center and made a mark. You can see that mark right there on the housing and also on the crankshaft, so that later on, if I need it, I'll be able to find the top dead center. So all you do is gotta open up this hatch right there and line up the marking with the notch on the casting. Yeah, so getting ready to put the sucker in. I'll bring you back. So we put the engine in the machine. There's not much clearance up here. If you have like an engine hoist like this, sorry for the mess, but we basically took the chain out and we hung it from right here because you don't have much clearance up there. So you bring it in past this point, drop it in a little bit, bring it in more past this point, and then you drop it in a little bit more, and the bell housing bolts, there is 5 bolts that you have to go down under the machine, and from under the belly pan you have to tighten them. There is no other way, and the rest basically you can put the cab up, and with a very long extension you can impact them. Couple of points. There is that gear, the coupler gear, plastic one, that connects the engine to the pump. It's a plastic, so once you line up the studs on the back of the bell housing and you know that they're kind of lined up, you basically get here and you wiggle this crank, wiggle the engine a little bit, so that plastic piece goes in properly. You don't want to break that plastic piece. I'm assuming they've put a plastic piece coupling the engine to the pump because they reckon if one of them goes, then doesn't destroy the other one. And yeah, so I'm putting all this wiring here. It's pretty straightforward. This piece had a color on it, so this was purple and purple, so, and so that you don't confuse these two together, that's what I mean. Other than that, no other hiccups, no other hassles. Went in pretty straightforward. I'm doing the just tighten the starter. So just did the wiring from here and goes to the back and goes to the top. Put the muffler on, alternator on. I had to take the alternator off because you cannot reach the starter. Put the compressor for the AC on. Put the rest of the stuff there. tighten these bolts, and yeah, it's coming along nicely. Gonna show you more of these. Yeah. Take a break, have a coffee, and see how far we can get this, because we have to take it to Kubota for injection programming, right? Starting the engine.